The following is a presentation of the Belly Up Sports Media Network.
Brandon, are you ready to move on to this next contract? I meant segment, but of course that does give it away if the on-deck segment doesn't already give it away. But now up to bat, will Jake Cronenworth earn his 7-year, $80 million extension? Brandon, let's start with you.
Absolutely, yes. The contract doesn't start until next year. And I've been a big fan of Jake Cronenworth for a few years now. I love the way that he plays. It's surprising when you look and it's like, wow, he's 29 years old. But you're talking about a guy who has only played about 368 games in the MLB. And is coming off back-to-back 4 WAR seasons, according to Baseball Reference, and kind of just slots in everywhere on defense and is good. Like big Ben Zobrist vibes. I mean, last year he played a lot of second base, and now this year he's only been playing first base. And I think it's a really smart deal for the Padres to lock him up like this because, yeah, sure, he's 29, but when he would hit the open market, presumably at age like 33 or whatever that would be, 34, I guess, he'd be getting more than $80 million, especially with the luxury tax going up the next few years. I think that it's smart for the Padres to lock up a guy like him just so you have a little stability. And when you talk about teams with stability, it is the Padres with the amount of long-term contracts that they already have. They see their team. They see that they made the NLCS last year. They know that they're good enough to get back there, especially with adding Xander Bogaerts. And once Fernando Tatis gets back as well. I really think that this is AJ Preller going out there and saying, look, this is a guy who's been proven capable of playing multiple positions and just plays the game right. Back-to-back All-Star game appearances. Why not reward him with $80 million over 7 years, which – if he keeps playing at this kind of level, is going to be an absolute steal.
Absolutely, and I'm going to agree with that 100%. He earns this contract because I don't think it's that hard for a guy like him to earn effectively, $12 million a year?
Yeah, it's not that much.
It's not that much to begin with. Yes, you're buying out Arbiers, but still, this is a guy who's going to be able to play everywhere. Even if his numbers were to regress, here we're talking about a career 117 OPS plus hitter. He honestly, I expect him to improve, but even if he regressed a little bit and was about a league average hitter, he is a good defender at a variety of different spots. He's going to find ways into a lineup, and frankly, I'm surprised he's played every infield position. He hasn't seen the outfield yet, and that frankly shocks me in his career that you haven't stuck him out in left field for at least a little bit because we all know he could do it. And so at the end of the day, you have him for the next 7 years. If your team changes drastically or you see the opportunity to go out and get real firepower or more firepower at first base than Jake Cronenworth can provide, because obviously, what we're looking at here, theoretically, he should be locked into first base for the foreseeable future, whether that's move Xander Bogaerts over to second for Tatis at short has been a lot of the topic of late, or if you leave things the same and keep Ha-Seong Kim in this lineup.
I think Tatis is going to be an outfielder only. It seems like with what they were doing in spring training, it seems like that they really want him in the outfield.
I do too, but I wouldn't be shocked if a year or so down the line, especially depending on what happens this year with a guy like Ha-Seong Kim offensively, the bigger concern becomes Juan Soto in left field. Like, that's not a very athletic guy, and I saw the case made that maybe actually I believe it was Roy from Friars on the Farm said maybe it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world to have a more athletic shortstop in front of him to mask some of those deficiencies. But at the end of the day, I'd be happy with either one. Either way, we're talking about Jake Cronenworth as the first baseman for the foreseeable future for this team. If they added more firepower, not only could he just slot around to a super utility spot and give a bunch of guys rest, because if they added another spot, they're going to have so much depth that they can sit everybody pretty regularly and just keep everybody relatively rested. But he could also slot into an outfield spot perfectly fine. So if you replaced his position, he's going to find another way to work himself into that lineup very easily. There's going to be no waste. This isn't going to be a very different situations, but it's not going to be like a having an Isaiah Kiner-Falefa on your lineup just because he's being paid $6 million. That was the first name that came up. I wasn't trying to pick on the Yankees there. It's
greatest center fielder in Yankees history.
Like he's going to be able to find value and fill value. You're not going to just be keeping him because he's being paid $12 million.